There's no universal answer for how long you should run your A/B test. It depends on your traffic volume, your MDE, your significance threshold, and your power settings. That said, Katerina Beresneva recommends waiting for a minimum of 100 conversions per variation and at least 95% statistical significance, which in her experience translates to 4 to 6 weeks. Sadie Nev recommends mapping your traffic volumes and baseline performance across your site before committing to any test, so you're only designing experiments your traffic can actually support. And Gerda Thomas suggests using a test duration calculator to remove the guesswork entirely. The one thing all these three agree on: calculate your duration before you start, commit to it, and don't stop early. Hi, I'm Kamel, and welcome back to the Convert YouTube channel, where we talk all things CRO and experimentation. Test duration is the amount of time you run an A/B test for, from start to finish, from the moment traffic starts splitting to when you call a winner or stop the test. Before you write a single line of test code, a duration estimate tells you whether your idea is feasible given your current traffic, your minimal detectable effect, and your business timeline. For example, if the math says you need 14 weeks to reach significance on a change that affects 3% of homepage visitors, that's a signal to rethink the hypothesis entirely. Either you're targeting too small a segment, the expected effect size is too subtle to detect quickly, or your traffic volume just can't support that test right now. Duration shapes your entire backlog. Every test you run is a decision to not run something else. You can't test everything, so how long each test takes directly controls how many ideas you get to validate in a given quarter. Say you're running 4 concurrent tests, each taking 6 weeks to complete. That's roughly 2 test cycles in a quarter. With tighter duration estimates, you could squeeze in 3 cycles instead, which means more ideas validated, more decisions made, and a faster moving program overall. When test durations stretch, you may start deprioritizing bold, high-risk ideas in favor of changes likely to show results faster. The longer a test runs, the easier it gets for the sample to be polluted. Factors like seasonal shifts, returning visitors who've already seen a variance, and external events like a major news cycle or sudden algorithm change can creep in and skew your data. Before you calculate your test duration, make sure you understand the following concepts. Sample size: the number of visitors you need in your test before you can trust the results. Say your variant gets 30 visitors and 6 convert. That's a 20% conversion rate, which sounds great, but with such a small sample, that number isn't stable enough to rely on. But if you get a 20% conversion rate from 3,000 visitors, you can be so much more confident the result reflects a real improvement. Minimal detectable effect, MDE, the smallest improvement or lift in your metric that you consider meaningful enough to act on. Setting an MDE of 25% might lead you to believe your traffic is sufficient for the test, but if your site has never produced that kind of lift, you're setting yourself up to run a test that was never going to tell you anything useful. Statistical significance, a measure of how confident you can be that your results aren't just a fluke. Most teams set their significance threshold at 95%, meaning there is only a 5% chance the difference you're seeing between control and variant is random. Power, the probability that your test will direct a real effect if one exists. Most teams target 80%. Mei Chin, product lead at Super AI, puts it plainly. A high-power test, say with 95% power, can catch even very small fish, meaning it can detect small effects in your variant. In contrast, a lower-power test, say with 60% power, might miss these small fish and incorrectly conclude that there are no meaningful differences between your variant and the control. For a step-by-step guide on calculating test duration, including how to set a realistic MDE, when to use a calculator, and what questions to ask before committing to any test, read How Long Should You Run Your A/B Test For? Everything You Need to Know About Test Duration by Althea Storm on the Convert blog, linked in the description below.